Could this be a major setback for Zelensky's war effort? Reports say one of Ukraine's top military commanders has been found dead, raising serious questions. A senior Ukrainian brigade commander has reportedly been found dead with a gunshot wound, prompting an immediate investigation into the circumstances. The mysterious death has sent shockwaves across Ukraine, with authorities launching a murder investigation to determine exactly what happened. The battle-hardened commander was found dead at a military base, adding another layer of intrigue to a case now under intense scrutiny. Questions continue to swirl after the Ukrainian colonel's death, as investigators work to uncover the truth behind the incident. The Ukrainian military is facing fresh uncertainty, adding to the challenges confronting the country's armed forces as the war continues. Colonel Vladimir Kononnikov, commander of Ukraine's 154th Separate Mechanized Brigade, was found dead, according to Ukrainian authorities. Police said the officer was discovered with a gunshot wound, although officials have not publicly disclosed the circumstances surrounding the incident. Ukraine's Operational Command South first announced Kononnikov's death on June 28, expressing condolences without providing detailed information. The Ukrainian military initially said preliminary findings showed no signs of external violence, offering few details about the case. However, police later confirmed that the colonel had sustained a gunshot wound, prompting further scrutiny of the incident. According to reports, Ukrainian authorities have opened a murder investigation as investigators work to determine the cause and circumstances of his death. Officials have not released additional information, and the circumstances surrounding the colonel's death remain unclear. Kononnikov was appointed commander of the 154th Separate Mechanized Brigade last year after serving in other military leadership roles. The brigade, established in September 2023, has participated in combat operations in the Kharkiv region and the Donbas during the ongoing war. According to reports, the unit has also been involved in operations around the strategically important areas of Pokrovsk and Kupyansk. The death of a senior field commander comes at a time when intense fighting continues across Ukraine's front lines, with both sides engaged in sustained military operations. Russia carried out another overnight barrage of ballistic missile attacks targeting Kiev on June 28, marking the latest in a series of long-range strikes against the Ukrainian capital. Ukraine's Air Force warned that multiple Russian ballistic missiles were heading toward Kiev, urging residents to seek shelter as the threat rapidly intensified. Air raid sirens sounded across central and eastern regions of Ukraine, as authorities issued widespread alerts warning civilians of the incoming missile attack. Officials in Kiev said the city's air defense systems were immediately activated, with crews working to intercept and destroy the incoming missiles. Loud explosions echoed across the Ukrainian capital shortly before 2 a.m., as air defense intercepts and missile impacts were reported in different parts of the city. A second wave of missile strikes followed at around 2:35 a.m., extending the assault and forcing emergency responders to remain on high alert. The overnight attack triggered fires near a residential building, a service station, and a non-residential facility, prompting firefighters and rescue teams to respond. Explosions were also reported in the northeastern cities of Sumy and Kharkiv, indicating that the missile assault extended well beyond the capital. Russia has increasingly relied on ballistic missile strikes in recent months, as progress in its ground offensives has slowed across several areas of the front line. Ukraine continues to depend heavily on US-supplied Patriot air defense systems, which remain among its most effective tools for intercepting advanced ballistic missile threats. Kiev has repeatedly warned that its stockpile of Patriot interceptor missiles is coming under growing pressure, raising concerns about sustaining its air defenses during prolonged attacks. Ukraine reportedly responded with a long-range drone strike targeting an oil refinery in Russia's Krasnodar region, continuing its campaign against Moscow's energy infrastructure. Videos circulating on social media appear to show large flames and thick smoke rising from the Slavyansk oil refinery following the reported overnight attack. Russian authorities said the blaze was caused by falling drone debris after air defenses intercepted the incoming drones, according to local reports. Officials did not immediately disclose the full extent of the damage, and it remained unclear whether refinery operations had been significantly affected. Kiev has intensified attacks on Russian oil and gas facilities in recent months, aiming to disrupt energy supplies that help finance and sustain Moscow's war effort. Earlier this week, Ukrainian drones also reportedly struck oil refineries in Russia's Bashkortostan region, expanding the range of attacks deep inside Russian territory. Repeated strikes on energy infrastructure have reportedly contributed to growing fuel shortages in parts of Russia, placing additional pressure on domestic supplies. According to reports, more than 20 Russian regions have introduced restrictions on fuel sales as authorities attempt to manage supplies amid continued disruptions. Russia-appointed authorities declared an emergency across occupied Crimea on June 27, following a sharp escalation in Ukrainian drone attacks. The move came after intensifying Ukrainian drone strikes targeted logistics hubs and military supply infrastructure across the occupied peninsula. Kiev said the expanding campaign was retaliation for Russia's near-daily missile and drone barrages against Ukrainian cities. President Zelensky said Crimea had become central to Ukraine's broader campaign to restore justice and reclaim occupied territory. Ukrainian strikes have disrupted fuel depots, oil storage facilities, and key military supply routes across occupied Crimea. The attacks triggered fuel shortages and widespread power outages that affected multiple areas across the occupied peninsula. Sevastopol officials urged residents to reduce electricity consumption to help prevent overloads across the strained power grid. Crimea's occupation authorities also suspended fuel sales to private motorists as shortages continued to worsen across the region. Sevastopol also introduced restrictions affecting public transport, shops, cafes, and street lighting to conserve limited resources.
Dear colleagues, good afternoon. A few days ago, at a meeting with members of the government, we discussed the situation in the domestic petroleum products market in detail. I would like to reiterate that we must minimize the impact of terrorist attacks on our civilian facilities and infrastructure. Today, at this broad meeting attended by the heads of our leading energy companies, I propose that we consider additional measures designed to ensure an uninterrupted and stable supply of fuel to citizens, businesses, and enterprises run by socially significant organizations, and that we discuss how decisions already taken in this regard are being implemented. My colleagues and I are in constant contact, so I asked everyone to come together to exchange views on how we can organize this work jointly. Nevertheless, it is clear that the largest oil refineries are operating at full capacity, the potential of small and medium-sized enterprises is being utilized, and the duration of routine maintenance has been reduced. Scheduled maintenance work has been postponed to a later date, and as early as July, production of the main types of fuel is forecast to exceed June's figures. I would particularly like to emphasize that, in the current situation, leading companies, including private ones, are proving themselves to be reliable partners of the state. The extraordinary challenges that are arising are being tackled, and tackled decisively, promptly and competently, in the interest of the country and our citizens. I would add that previously stockpiled fuel supplies have now reached the domestic market. But despite the fact that we have begun to use reserves, at the present moment petrol reserves practically correspond to the level for the same period last year. We must continue to act in a measured and, of course, prudent manner in this regard. According to the data provided by the Energy Ministry, the petrol reserves currently stand at 1.7 million tons, which is practically equal to the level recorded in the same period last year. There is but a slight decrease, only 4%. Moreover, a complete ban on the export of petrol and jet fuel has been temporarily imposed in the interest of domestic consumers. Complete ban on diesel fuel exports is under discussion. I know that questions regarding possible hoarding may arise, but that is precisely why we hold this meeting today, to prevent any unnecessary steps and avoid any extra issues. So we'll discuss all these issues. At the same time, as you well know, problems persist for both car owners and businesses. Unfortunately, there are still lines at petrol stations. It is not always possible to find the required grade of petrol now. We are aware of the difficulties agricultural producers and farms face in summer. We need to do our best to ensure that the seasonal fuel supply schedules are strictly met for agricultural enterprises, as harvests depend on these supplies. Overall, to stabilize the fuel market, I believe it is necessary to adopt systemic measures commensurate with the scale of the current challenges. This involves both increasing supply and maintaining economically justified fuel prices. To monitor the situation in real time, the government has established a special task force that operates around the clock. Additionally, in collaboration with oil companies, we have prepared further proposals to ensure fuel supplies for the domestic market. Let's discuss all of this in detail today.